button. Okay, champ, you're coming too big. Heck is going on. Not good. Tell us about what you just accomplished and who you are, and we'll start there.
So, my name is Jennifer Lozano, and I fight at 50 kg. I don't know if it's freezing. Can you hear me?
I can. It's just we're working through a little. This is like a first round of a championship bout. We're kind of struggling through the first bit, but I swear it's going to pick up and it's just going to be excellent.
Okay. As long as you hear me, if at any point you don't hear me, just let me know. Okay, so I'm Jennifer Lozano, and I fight at 50 kg. I just won the Continental Championships that took place in Guayaquil, Ecuador. Oh my God. I had 3 fights. My first fight was against Colombia. I won unanimously, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it was tough. Because I had seen, online from what I had searched that she was pro in her country, and she had 1 fight. So there wasn't much I could see to like really study or know what she was or what she would do, how to fight. But she was a southpaw, and southpaw with southpaw is kind of usually very rare, or it doesn't really happen, or at least in the US. So going international and going against a southpaw for the first time in a good while was definitely tough. It was completely the opposite. Very uncomfortable, but I'm just glad I got the win and I got my feet wet for the first time. And it was tough because although I did hit her like so many times with a lot of power, she was tough by she just wouldn't move. Like she just kept coming forward. And I was like, dang, like I can't move this girl. So I just decided to box and use my speed and just outbox her with my speed and stuff. My second fight for my semis was against Ecuador, which was a home country, and I won by RC in the second round. And that was unbelievable. I couldn't believe I had done that. Especially, it's my first time. I'm going against like these elite females from other countries, and I just couldn't believe I had just done that. After that, I did get a lot of backlash, with the same country, like with Ecuadorians and stuff. So that was kind of uncomfortable. That was kind of hard, but I thank God, and I spoke to my grandma who had passed, and I just stayed focused, as focused as I could throughout the tournament. And my finals, I fought against Argentina. It wasn't live streamed due to some technical difficulties that they did have at the tournament. But first round, I had taken it. Second round, I think I got hit a bit too much, and my corner had said that I had lost it. I needed the third round. Although I felt like I was landing the more clear punches, they had said, no, like you lost that, like you need to pick it up. So I was like, what? Like, how is that possible? I was like, okay, well, I can't let this happen. Like, I can't lose. I've already came too far. Like, I've worked way too hard. Like, I can't lose. So third round, I come out, I box her, I start being a little bit smarter, and I start landing the more solid and powerful punches, to make it seem like I'm being the more aggressive puncher. I start using my defense a lot more, my footwork, and I realize I start making her uncomfortable, and she starts fighting my fight instead of her fighting mine. I mean, me fighting hers, which is what she kind of wanted. I came out with a unanimous win against her, and it was a surreal moment. I myself couldn't believe it at the moment as I got my hand picked up, and it was just a crazy experience, going through all of that. So yeah.
Okay, well, that was a really good explanation. That was like if someone really wanted to know, you gave all the details. When you stopped Ecuador, I'd say that was up there with my man Jamar, who put I think it was Brazil on a t-shirt. He slept dude, and the dude made like a crazy face. Like I think he thought he was warming up when he hit the mat. But that was a big moment watching you stop the girl from the home country, because you just basically went from having a competitive fight to overwhelming someone who was seemingly a favorite, being that it's the host country.
Yeah, definitely for sure. That was my biggest concern, just because I had seen other countries go with Ecuador before my fight and like days before, and they would give it to Ecuador when the other country had obviously won. I'm sorry, give me a second. Um, so I was like, dang, like I can't leave it to the judges. Um I can't leave it close. I have to make sure I'm the aggressor. I have to make sure I, beat the point system and everything. Um, so I did have to think smart, especially because she was a southpaw too. So I do thank God that I fought a southpaw from a different country besides Ecuador in the first round, because that got my feet wet. I got a little bit more comfortable with southpaw. So by the second fight, when I did fight Ecuador, I kind of knew what punches to throw, which ones were landing from the first fight, and I had seen some of her other fights from the past, and she had already fought international several times. So I just compared my first fight to her fights from the past and just kind of summed it up together and knew what was gonna work, knew what wasn't. I know I was getting hit here and there with like cheap shots. Um, but again, I wasn't really too sure because everything was so the opposite from fighting an orthodox boxer.
Okay, yeah. I want to know about this streak you're on. You won nationals, now you've won a gold international. But really, if I was thinking about this, like you've only maybe had like a single loss over 3 or 4 years, maybe two losses. I'm not like some historian of your career, but I'm when I see your name, you're winning a lot. So like tell me about what this run you've been on is.
Honestly, it all basically started when my coach and I decided to drop our amateur team that was about 13 to 17 teammates. We kind of decided to drop it because we were supposed to go pro. Um, due to the city where I'm from, you going to the Olympics or going even on Team USA usually doesn't really happen. Yeah, it's an idea, it's a dream, it's any kid's dream, but for it to actually happen, that opportunity usually isn't always there. So our plan, was go undefeated and go pro. We were gonna sign to this big time promotional company, which I can't really say, but we were already like having plans for that. As we trained, even though okay, so we'll train about 2 to 3 times a day, every day, summer, spring break, go out of town to spar. Um, and even though we had fights coming up or not, we stayed in shape all the time, and we were already training like we would have if we were pro. Um, and I kept winning, as my name started getting more out there. Um, and Team USA gave us that call to go to camp for Worlds the first time. We took it and we couldn't believe it because we weren't looking at Team USA anymore. That wasn't really part of our plan. But because it was there, we were like, what, let's go for it. That's what we had been working for such a long time. Maybe it can be a possibility. Maybe we can do this. So as I went, I didn't make it the first time, which was obvious. I wasn't really mad. I did give everything I had. And so I kept going. I kept going. They liked my attitude. They liked my work ethic. Um, and now I'm with the same team, and because of the team that I have back at home, I am where I am right now.
What has Team USA Boxing afforded you as a boxer in terms of experience and development?
What has it afforded me? Like,
I mean, I guess I used a bad word there. I used an unclear, like, what has the opportunity to be on Team USA Boxing given you at this point, and the experiences, the development, the growth, being around other athletes? How has that kind of leveled you up or changed you as a fighter?
it has definitely leveled me up, and it has definitely, made me a lot more humble and grateful for what I had back in the day and to what I have now. It's also made me push more into going, into the Olympics, going into for more international gold medals, because I am the first female in my city to ever do this, to ever come this far. And now I'm an inspiration to younger generations and younger females out here in my city. Not just in my city, but also, border town to Nuevo Laredo. I do have, a lot of females who do look up to me, especially from Mexico. Um, So it's given me basically that fan base, I guess, but also that clarity and like that, how can you say, that open window. So to other females who say, oh my God, like I want to be like that. And I always say, I want females, younger generations to look at me, but not just be like me, but be greater than me, get further than I ever could. And even from a younger age, you know, youth team, junior team, elite team, and so forth. I could never do that because I just didn't have what I have now, like the same mentality, nor the same work ethic as I used to. You know, I was young. And I wasn't educated on what Team USA really was. But besides that, it's opened a lot of doors for me, especially being a big time inspiration to younger females.
Well, that's pretty cool. And you have a lot of perspective at a young age, sounding like my man Eddie Croft. That's a thing Eddie Croft would always tell young fighters, I believe. Eddie, don't punch me if I'm wrong quoting you for that, but always wanting people to go further than what he went. Um, I guess my next thing is, who's the Texas inspiration from a boxer? Is it Pali Ayala? Is it Donald Curry? Is it Errol Spence? Is it someone I didn't name? Who is kind of the Texas boxer that you grew up kind of looking to?
Well, Texas wise, I never grew up looking up to someone here. I mostly got into boxing because of what I was going through as a kid, you know, bullying and
Well,
a
talk
tough.
about that. I asked an awful question. So talk about how you got into boxing and all of that through the bullying and stuff.
So I was, as a kid, I was very overweight. I skipped double digits, went into triple digits from a very young age. And that led to getting bullied, and my English wasn't as good as other kids as a kid. So, you know, they'd also bully me for that. My first language was Spanish. So is Spanish, I'm sorry. So I was bullied because of that too. And I would fight a lot in the street because I would get jumped constantly. You know, walking home from school, I would get jumped. I'd get told, I get taunted, I get pushed around. And I was this nice kid, you know, I would never hurt a fly, nothing. Like I wouldn't punch back. I didn't have the will to really hurt anybody else. So I just kind of take it to, at some point I said, I don't want this to keep happening to me. Like it's not fair. I'm not doing anything to these kids. Why is it happening to me? So I told my mom, I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to box. She was like, okay, cool. So we joined a boxing gym. Well, I joined a boxing gym down here in the south side. And after a few months of losing weight, um I had told my mom I wanted to compete. She was like, okay, let's talk to the coach. Mind you, I'm a border town. The culture is very Mexican, very Hispanic. Women weren't seen as equal or even highly as equal as men at the time, as you know, as it is now. So when we told him that I wanted to box, he was like, no, you're still overweight and women can't box. Women don't know how to box. Like, you know, they're too dumb to box. So that shattered my heart. I was just a kid. I was about 8, 9. So I was like, what the heck, right? So I stopped boxing for about exactly 6 months. And my mom kept looking for gyms to go to for me. And she found Boxing Pride somewhere like in central or like the north side of our city. And she had told me about it and asked me if I wanted to join. And I was like, yeah, definitely. I joined at the age of about 10. And then within the first few months of me being in their like regular classes, they had said, if I they had asked me if I wanted to be in the amateur team to compete, and I said yes. I definitely jumped on that real quick, and I told my mom about it, and my mom was like, okay, you want to do this, okay, like let's do it. So she supported me, and ever since my first fight was at the age of 11, and ever since, like, I've been boxing, and you know, I kept doing what I love, and I just ended up defending myself. To this day, I have no idea who bullied me. Like, I have no idea what their names were nor who they were. Um, but also, you know, back at home, I did have a lot of problems too with my parents. Not between me, but between them. So I did want to always protect my mom, like always from everybody, from anything. And so I joined boxing for that reason too. Now it's just, me and my mom and my brother back at home. And not like everything seems pretty great. And like with my career going, everything I do is for my mom. Anything I say is for my mom. Anything I achieve or anything, and all of my success is for my mom at the end of the day. That's one thing I do say a lot, and I do, preach a lot.
I think oftentimes when I sit on this microphone and ask people boring questions, a big thing I ask, especially young fighters or rich fighters who have world titles, is what's your why? Because I think when you fight, you can't fight for money. You can't even fight for pride. There has to be a why. When things get tough, what is your why? And I think you just explained to me what your why is. If things aren't going your way in a boxing ring, why do you want to win?
It's definitely for my mom. Definitely, like, even when I won versus Ecuador, a lot of people noticed I looked up and I was crying. I looked up because I not only represent my city, my country, my state, I represent my grandma. I represent my mom, because at the end of my career, way further than Olympics, way further than pro, I do want to end up taking care of her. I always say she's going to end up living with me. I don't care if my husband doesn't like it, if he doesn't like it, then he's not for me, but my mom's going to end up living with me for sure. Like, I want to take care of this woman because she's taking care of me, my entire life. She's done things and she's the strongest woman I know. And she's someone who I look up to. She may not see it, she may not understand, but I look up to this woman because she's the strongest woman I ever know. From any boxer, any other athlete I can think of, she's the strongest woman I know in my life, because I physically have seen how many times, life has hit her and she's gone back up, not just for me, but for her entire life and for life. I've seen that woman struggle. I've seen that woman cry, and she just wipes her tears and is like, okay, I got this. Let's go. And I feel like that's what I want to be like. Anytime life gets hard, like, I want to be able to get back up and be like, okay, I got this. Like, there's no way this is going to defeat me. And it's kind of what happened with my first loss. What was it? I think last year or 2 years ago against Yara Martinez. I felt like I had won the fight, but I lost, and okay. But I made sure I didn't lose again. I told myself I was gonna let this be the enemy. I told myself this wasn't gonna destroy me nor identify me or whatever, for the rest of my career. So I made sure I never lost. And my mom was there to pick me up and was like, "You want to keep doing this? Let's go. Like, this is nothing. Let's go. Like, you're still young. Like, get back up, get back in the gym, and be better than what you were yesterday. Be better than what you were a few hours ago. Always improve no matter what. You're always learning." And so ever since, like, I've taken that advice to heart, and I am where I am today because of her and my team, and and everyone who's been in my life. I'm sorry, I keep getting calls.
No worries. You're allowed to have a life and be popular. One thing that stood out to me on top of what you said was going back to the bullying was how oftentimes I was thinking about this with like the fights this weekend. People ask me about King Ryan or Golovkin or Lubin Fedora. And I think when we summarize fighters as fight fans or people that don't box, it tends to come down to emotion, right? It's 1 second in a fight that defines like a person's entire life, starting from 8 years old till when they're on the big stage. And I think what made me think back on that was you talked about being motivated by bullies, but you can't put a face to it, but you remember an emotion, you remember a feeling. And I think that for fight fans, that's kind of how they view fighters. They don't really know how to explain it, but at a certain moment, they feel a certain emotion, and that emotion defines a fighter. And I think that's kind of like a universal feeling that most people that love watching fights kind of get behind. I don't know. I just was thinking about that.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I agree with you on that. 1000%. Yeah.
Well, most awful question when you get no answer behind it. So, what are you trying to do with your amateur boxing? I assume 2024 Olympics, but what are some of the checkpoints that you're trying to hit on the way to that?
Honestly, because this is my first time, being on Team USA and, actually getting out there internationally. I'm just trying to get as far as I can. I'm trying to make history here in my city. I'm trying to motivate other little girls, especially because bullying still happens here in my city. I do try to be involved in that. And I'm just trying to leave my mark. I'm trying to let people know who I am and that I'm not here to joke around. But also, just like I have all this success, I'm very humble to have it. Like, I'm not someone cocky or someone who is like, yeah, I'm the best, this and that. Although many people can say I am, I'm kind of like, no, because just like I was an underdog and came to the top, there's an underdog right now working their butt off, working their tail off to try and beat me. So I can't ever really be satisfied at where I am, because as soon as I get comfortable, that's when I start losing. That's when cockiness comes and, I start losing sight of what I have. And I'm not that type of person. Like, I'm very humble to be where I'm at. I'm very grateful each and every day. I thank God. I thank my grandma. I thank my mom because the support that I have, and just how far I've come, and I never take it for granted. And I just want people to know that that's the kind of fighter that I am, or the type of person that I am.
Well, that's very respectable. I think about this every single morning, and this will be kind of a great thing for you to not care about. But there's always someone that wants what someone else has. So I think about, okay, I'm not anywhere, but then like there's someone that's starting out, they want exactly what I have, and then I want something that someone else has, and then that person wants to be Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and then Jeff Bezos wants to be some musician, and some musician wants. So it's like, if you really think about it, you never should stagnate, because there's always someone that wants exactly what you've worked for at every given moment to get where you're at. And you can't let off the pedal, because that's when you lose everything that you led up to this moment for.
Yep, exactly. Definitely.
Okay. I guess we've touched on what your inspiration is, but is there any other inspiration for you inside of the ring besides your mother?
My grandma, definitely. When I lost my grandma, many people don't know this, but I did have a lot of PTSD, and it was very traumatic just because I did lose her to a cartel back in Mexico. Um, it was very traumatic, very, very depressing. I had major PTSD and major depression. Um, and I did fall back in my career a lot. It was right when COVID hit. Um, so I was in boxing, I was competing, and I didn't lose any fights because, Texas was shut down. And so we're nationals and everything. But I was in a very, very, very dark place. I had hit rock bottom at the age of 17. Um, and as soon as she had passed, I had a fight here in my home city 2 weeks later. And I had to just kind of brush it away and bounce back and just kind of brush it off for a second. I ended up winning, but I will say this, and I always say this, Alyssa Mendoza from Idaho did change my life for like completely, that's for sure. I lost against her in I think it was Shreveport, if I'm not mistaken, in Louisiana in 2018, 2019, or
Right
yeah,
around there. Yeah.
somewhere
Shout out Shreveport. I've been there a couple of times. It's very small, a lot of chain restaurants.
there. Somewhere there, somewhere around those years, I lost against her. And um, I wasn't mad when I lost, because as deep down and as much as I had hit rock bottom throughout those several months throughout training camp, and since I had lost my grandma, I thanked her. I hugged her, because I had come into a realization right at the end of the fight, and I was like, okay, like, I know I'm a hard worker, but I wasn't in the right mind. I wasn't in the right state of mind or anything this camp. And God made me realize, like, these are the consequences, when you're not there, when you're not focusing on yourself, when you don't take care of yourself, you know. And I know a lot of athletes have been talking about mental health and anxiety, depression, and all this and that, but no one's done anything. Get me? Like, they can just talk about it, but no one's done anything. And going back real quick, when I lost, I hugged her and I told her I was proud of her, and thank you for the fight. And ever since, every time I see her at nationals, I hug her and I say thank you. And she knows why. I have told her, like, you changed my life. Ever since that fight, I started focusing on myself, my mental health, and just getting back at it, getting better. Um, and it was when again COVID hit and Texas shut down. For about 2 months, 3 months, we had gone from online. I mean, we had gone to school online. I was failing my classes. I was in this program for the medical field in high school to get my associate's degree in science. I was really close not to getting it because I lost control of myself. I wasn't fully there. So after that fight, I started focusing more on school. I started training at home, but I still had, just like I can take 2 steps forward, I took like 10 back. So I had to like always climb up and up and up. And it was a long process. And it felt like forever. Um, but ever since that fight, that completely changed me because it made me want to change my life. It made me want to focus on myself and be better, just be at peace because I had so much anger towards people, the world, towards everybody. Like my coaches knew how, I just wouldn't listen to them. I could spar like 12, 10 rounds with guys. And although they were going, not as hard because they were like 130, I was weighing about 119. I'd frustrate them to a point where, I'd get hit. I've been dropped before by pros and all this and that. And I didn't care. Like I was just so mad and in my feelings and just gone that I didn't care. So as I started taking care of myself, I started realizing that I'm not the only one who goes through this. There's other kids who have gone through way worse. What I went through was very traumatic and was something no kid should go through. But I started realizing, dang, like friends from here that I have here who I would go to school with, they tell me their stories about some other stuff they would go through. And I was like, dang, like you never got help. Or I go and get help, counseling and all this and that to talk to somebody. And they'd help me in certain aspects, but at some point I was like, this isn't helping me anymore. So I just stopped going. And I didn't like the way it was set up or like the way the process really was. So I do also want to make a change in that and the way they do handle kids with trauma, kids with PTSD, kids with depression, because that's also why a lot of people I've spoken to say I don't get help because they don't help. They just kind of say the same thing and all this stuff. So outside the ring, I do want to, I guess, get us, go back into school and try changing some stuff about how things are handled here in the city and, in Mexico too. But besides that, I mean, my grandma's also a big inspiration with me because to why I box, because I was raised by both my mom and my grandma, and losing my grandma, that was shattered me. But after every fight, I do pray. After and before every fight, I pray. I talk to her. After every win, I talk to her. And I just say, look at what I've been doing, and my name is La Traviesa. In English, would be like troublemaker, and it's because she gave me that name when I was little. I was a troublemaker, so she gave me that name, and I represent her no matter where I go, and I represent my mom too.
Okay, and I see the troublemaker in you. We make a certain face. I see the troublemaker. Looking at Mikaela Mayer and Jenny Fuchs, obviously they're fighting this weekend, but obviously they come out of the Team USA boxing program and they're fighting on ESPN. Do you look at what Mikaela's doing main eventing on ESPN as like the groundwork for women's boxing? Because I think Mikaela's obviously Clarissa Shields, Katie Taylor, before Layla Ali, Christy Martin. There have been pioneers, but I think Mikaela is doing a lot of groundwork to get women's boxing on major platforms and to make women's boxing much more normal. I was thinking of asking you, do you have any thoughts on just, you don't have to break down the fight, but like just what Mikaela is doing in terms of being signed to Top Rank?
Oh man, I think even Jenny doing, signing to Top Rank and everything, and her making her pro debut, even on live TV and being like promoted so much around so many different platforms and so many like all over social media. I think that's great because a few years back or like last year, if she would have turned pro with Top Rank, she would have probably not been as promoted as she would have now. So I feel like even Christina Cruz, and you're right, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, all these amazing great fighters, all these Olympians, I feel like they're giving us, they're giving opportunity to women, and a step ahead for, again, like, for younger generations like myself and other people on Team USA, a head start. When we turn pro, by the time we turn pro, we're gonna be step ahead of them, because they're doing all the work right now. They're still getting women's boxing on the platform, on live, on the main card, on these big cards, and fighting for their spots. By the time we turn pro, hopefully, yes, we still have to put in work because it's never going to be as equal till years to come, but it won't be such a hassle as what it would be, as it was for them, if that really makes sense.
Totally does. I'll say something that won't make that much sense, but it reminds me in a weird way of the NBA. In the 80s, the NBA didn't even have a television contract, from what I understand. Then you get Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan. All of a sudden, all the networks want to get it. We got Amanda Seriano, Katie Taylor, Clarissa Shields, Mikaela Mayer. They're all really friggin' good. Throw Savannah Marshall in too. By the time your era comes, I think that network television is going to look at numbers. They're going to see viewership. They're going to see tickets are being sold. And I think that it's going to just basically prove that women's boxing isn't just enjoyable, it's also profitable, which is a narrative I think a lot of people have been pushing. It wasn't to keep it off television.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that for sure.
Okay. Anything else you want to touch on? Any good gym stories? Any other things that are meaningful that you'd like to hit on before you get up out of here?
For right now, I can't really think of anything. Just thank you so much, everybody else who watches this on social media. Thank you so much for the love, for the support. Keep grinding. Keep grinding. Keep pushing through. And again, I can't thank God enough, and my grandma who's watching me right now.
Yeah, and I'm biased. I'm trying to support young American fighters because I feel like in the US, we're the one country where we're not proud of our Olympians, we're not proud of our homegrown fighters. It feels like a fighter who has a great amateur career from America, we're eager to see them lose. Yet if we import a fighter from another country, we're like, oh, this guy's the truth. So my big commitment on this channel is let's prop up our young, outstanding American fighters. Let's make them at least give you something, just a 30-minute interview that probably goes largely unnoticed, but at least that's something as opposed to nothing, which is kind of like what happened before I started doing this, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Social media that you want to shout out?
My Instagram, I guess, is Jennifer Lozano 1124.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate you.